I'm 29 now, but this happened when I was 24 and working as a part-time sound technician at a small community studio in my city. Nothing glamorous, just a dim, slightly moldy rehearsal space squeezed between a pawn shop and a dentist's office. I was the kind of guy who loved quiet nights, fiddling with cables and organizing presets more than going out with friends. I didn't drink much, didn't party. Music was my social life. Back then, the studio had a deal where local bands could book late-night practice sessions at a discount, as long as a technician stayed in the building. Most people avoided those shifts. The building made noises, especially at night, pipes clanking, floorboards snapping, but to me it was just old infrastructure breathing. I liked the solitude. On the night this happened, I had taken an extra shift because someone called in sick. It was a weekday, cold outside, and I remember biking there wearing 2 hoodies, my breath fogging up in front of my face. I got in at around 10 p.m., unlocked everything, and set up the recording room for whoever had booked the session. Except no one showed. That wasn't unusual. Local bands were notorious for flaking. So I settled into the control room, turned on a soft lamp, put on my headphones, and started organizing digital folders. Boring stuff. I remember thinking it would be an easy night. I had no way of knowing that the worst, most confusing interaction of my life was about to come through those speakers. I spent the first hour renaming audio files that previous clients had saved with idiotic titles like Bruh Mix Final 3 and Use This PLS. The usual nonsense. I ate a protein bar, tapped my foot to a beat I'd been working on, and kept glancing at the clock. By midnight, it was obvious the band wasn't coming. Still, the studio required someone to stay until the booked block ended at 2 a.m. To kill time, I walked through the small hallway to check each room. Studio A, the main rehearsal room, had that lingering smell of sweat and cheap guitar straps. Studio B was colder, almost always unused. The bathroom light flickered the same way it always did, buzzing faintly. I remember muttering to myself that I should replace that bulb next morning. Everything felt normal, boring even. Back in the control room, I sat down and decided to test a new microphone setup. I powered up the monitoring system and ran a basic sound check, tapping the mic, clapping my hands once or twice. Levels looked clean, no interference. I started humming, maybe out of boredom, a looping melody I'd been trying to build into a track. I recorded maybe 15 seconds, listened back, and immediately hated it. I deleted the file and leaned back in my chair. Around 12:40 a.m., and I put my headphones back on, closed my eyes and let myself drift. Not sleeping, just enjoying the quiet thrum of the room tone. That's when I heard something faint come through the speakers. A soft hiss. Then, a sound I couldn't immediately place. Something like breathing, very slow, very close to the microphone. I frowned, tapped the mic again, and heard nothing unusual. I convinced myself it was feedback or HVAC noise. I shouldn't have done that. At around 1:05 a.m., and I heard it again, this time clearer. A low, shaky exhale, not mechanical, not a hum, a breath. I sat up, pulled the headphones off, and stared at the mixing board. Every input was muted except the ambient mic I'd tested earlier, the one in Studio B. Studio B should have been empty. For a moment I rationalized it. Maybe a draft hit the mic stand, or the vents kicked in weirdly. Old buildings can sound human if you let them. I clicked the monitor switch so the sound played through the room speakers instead of my headphones. At first, nothing. Then, faintly. Tick, 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 like someone tapping a fingernail on metal. slow, uneven, patient. I felt a tiny spike of annoyance, not fear, not yet. Probably a loose cable hitting the stand. I walked down the hall towards Studio B, the floorboards creaking under my steps. When I opened the door, the room was pitch dark. My finger hovered over the light switch. I flicked it on, empty. The mic was set up exactly where I'd left it earlier, except the angle was wrong, tilted slightly downward, as if someone had leaned in to speak into it. I stood there longer than necessary, looking for any explanation. The door wasn't locked. Maybe someone wandered in earlier. Maybe someone from the band checked the room and left. All possible, all harmless. Just as I was about to turn around, my control room speaker emitted a loud, dry crackle, the kind mics make when someone touches them. I froze. I was 20 feet away from the mic, looking directly at it. No one else was in the room. The crackle repeated, once, then twice. Something wasn't right. I told myself I was being stupid. I walked back to the control room, determined to figure it out logically. Maybe the cable was shorting. Maybe the preamp was failing. Maybe the building's vibrations were causing noise spikes. But when I sat down, the screen showed something that stopped my breath. The file I had deleted earlier, the humming melody I'd recorded, was back. Not only back, but altered. The waveform looked different, sharper peaks, irregular spacing, as if someone had overwritten parts of it. I double-clicked. My voice began humming, but halfway through, another sound crept underneath it. A second voice, not singing, whispering. I yanked the headphones off, heart pounding so hard I felt it in my throat. I checked the file properties. It had been modified at 1:12 a.m. I hadn't touched anything at 1:12. A cold realization hit me. If someone had come into Studio B earlier, they could have accessed the control room too. Maybe they were hiding. Maybe they never left. I got up fast, locked the control room door, and grabbed the long metal ruler we used for measuring cable runs. It was flimsy protection, but it was something. The building suddenly felt wrong, too quiet, too still. The vents weren't humming anymore. Even the lights seemed dimmer. Then, from Studio B's monitor feed, I heard it, a soft, dragging scrape against the mic stand. Then a whisper so close it sounded like someone pressing their lips against the microphone. "Are you there?" I backed up instinctively, shaking. Someone was in the building, someone who knew how to move between rooms without making footsteps. Someone who was now speaking directly into my setup. I did the stupidest thing imaginable. I answered, "Who's there?" My voice cracked. "The studio's closed. You need to leave." Silence. Then, after a long, breathy pause, "You heard me. Listening." Hearing that phrasing made something cold crawl up my spine. I unlocked the door and stepped into the hallway, ruler in hand. The building was dead silent, except for a low electrical hum coming from Studio B's direction. I started walking slowly, pressing my palm to the wall to steady myself. Halfway down the hall, the overhead lights flickered. Not fully off, but enough to distort the shadows. For a split second, I thought I saw someone standing at the end of the corridor, but when the light stabilized, nothing was there. I reached Studio B and pressed my ear to the door, a faint rustling inside. I whispered, "If you're in there, I'm calling the police." Silence. I turned the handle slowly. The door opened a few inches before something pressed back from the other side, not violently but deliberately, like a person holding it shut with their palm. I froze. A soft voice, inches from the crack between door and frame, whispered, "Leave your voice open." I didn't respond. I couldn't. The pressure on the door increased. Not a push, more like someone sliding something along it. A fingernail, slow, scraping from top to bottom. That sound broke me. I let go of the handle and ran full speed back to the control room. I slammed the door, locked it, pushed a chair under the handle, and dialed 190 with shaking hands. As the ringtone buzzed in my ear, the studio speakers suddenly crackled to life. Then I heard it, my humming playing again, but now layered with a wet, laughing breath beneath it. The police arrived in under 10 minutes. They swept the building top to bottom, checked closets, checked the attic hatch, everything. They found no one, no signs of forced entry, no footprints on the dusty storage room floors, no moved furniture besides the mic. When I showed them the audio file, the second voice was gone. Only my humming remained, clean and untouched. They said I'd probably fallen asleep and imagined the rest. I quit the job the following week, but for days afterward, I kept thinking about the door in Studio B, the deliberate pressure pushing back, the whisper that felt like it was brushing the skin of my ear, even though I wasn't inside that room. I still wonder where the person could have hidden, how they moved so quietly, and why they fixated on my voice. Mostly I wonder what would have happened if I had pushed the door harder. It's been 5 years. I work a normal office job now, far from that studio, far from late nights and microphones. But sometimes, when I record a voice memo or try to sing along to a song in the car, I swear I hear it again, a faint breath underneath my own, like someone waiting for me to stop talking so they can continue.